One Piece took the cover of the magazine this week to celebrate 27 years of serialization. Let us know how long you've been following the story. No Yamato adventures this time around. Instead, we have an absolutely gorgeous color spread focused on Nami. One thing that jumps out to me as a possible tease of future events would be the fruit behind Frankie. All the other fruits we see seem pretty normal, but this melon has a blue exterior, so maybe it's hinting at some manner of devil fruit. Now, it is totally possible that I am just forgetting something, but a rubber ducky mount with a spiked collar also seems suspiciously out of place. But what do you think? Saint Saturn leapt onto the giant pirate ship. Luffy told everyone to watch out for his legs, since they're poisonous. They all braced themselves against the crazed attacks with their many shields. Luffy prepared to retaliate with a wind-up punch, but he stopped short when he saw Bonnie struggling below in a partial Nika form. Luffy frowned. Saturn struck, but Luffy diverted the attack with a Haki-infused punch that saved Bonnie. From there, Bonnie propelled herself upwards, which caught the Elder off guard. The sight of Bonnie assuming such a form was truly infuriating. She was having a hard time breathing at the moment, but tried her best. Luffy's smile returned as he cheered her on. Dr. Vegapunk declared that a day of awakening was swiftly approaching, and on that day, all of the Void Century's many secrets would be revealed, something that caused mixed reactions and virtually universal shock. He is not talking about a trickle of information. Somehow, the truth is going to flood out all at once. And when you think of Dr. Vegapunk as a proxy for Oda, this somehow becomes an even grander declaration. We would receive shots of Princess Shirahoshi of Fishman Island and Princess Vivi of the Alabasta Kingdom, both of whom are characters that have been especially impacted by the existences of Pluton and Poseidon. Vegapunk mentioned that the ancient weapons that sank the continents of the world were still in use. Next, there was a shot of Konis and Isa up in Skypiea. The doctor emphasized that the power of the ancient weapons still exists. Now, the mention of power above the clouds immediately reminds me of Enel. It's been 14 years since we saw Enel's adventures on the moon. The self-proclaimed god was able to power an ancient, futuristic civilization and its many robots. Not to mention that he powered the Maxim all the way up there. Who's to say that he couldn't power an ancient weapon too? I mean, technically, by definition, he has done that. Whatever the case, I've been waiting for my favorite cover story to be relevant to the main story for too long, so I will take whatever I can get. And later in the video, there is another cover story that does exactly that. Dr. Vegapunk brought up the fact that people of rare or unique racial ancestry are mercilessly persecuted and killed. This too was on account of some shrouded aspect of history. Kuma remained motionless behind the giants as they faced Saint Saturn. In the past, Dr. Vegapunk marveled on account of Kuma's buccaneer lineage. Kuma wondered what was so special about his bloodline. Marco was listening to the broadcast like everyone else. Once again, he remembered when Whitebeard mentioned a kingdom of gods being where the Holy Land now stands, the presumed homeland of the Lunarians. Speaking of which, King considered his own heritage, along with the fact that just having information related to his people was worth 100 million berries. That's as much as Luffy's second bounty poster. Pudding thought about the uniqueness of her third eye while being behind bars as Blackbeard's prisoner. Back on the giant ship, Bonnie prepared to retaliate against the beefing arachnid. He mocked her for mimicking Nika's power while being totally ignorant to the past. Luffy didn't care what the monster had to say. What's the point of a villainous monologue if you're not gonna reveal anything? Luffy defended Bonnie from the Elder yet again. Saturn's frustration grew as Luffy's smile did the same. Bonnie started to find her resolve. She considered all of Kuma's memories. On God Valley, Saturn told a young Kuma that as a buccaneer, death or slavery were his only options, that this was what the tides of time had decided. Bonnie hated the Elder for everything he had subjected her father to. Kizaru still hasn't moved an inch in a good while. I wonder if he'll get in any trouble for this. Bonnie resented the Elder for what he had done to her mother, such as subjecting her to his cruel experimentation. She refused to acknowledge him as a god when real gods exist. We see a baby Bonnie sharing precious memories with her ailing mother. She remembers doing the Nika shuffle alongside her father. Thanks to him, she knew that real heroes exist too, which is always funny on account of Luffy's reluctance to accept such a title. Bonnie erupted into tears. All she wanted in life was for the three of them to live together happily. Being alone for so long was terribly painful, but somehow she managed to persevere. She felt eternally indebted to her incredible parents for blessing her in so many ways, and they appreciated her existence just as much. Luffy supersized himself behind Bonnie while she prepared a liberating attack. The Water 7 shipwrights listened as Vegapunk mentioned the reckoning that would accompany the many answers to come. He warned the masses that they should be prepared to protect themselves when the day arrives, no matter what happens, which was accompanied by a bit of trouble in paradise between his former colleagues. Caesar and Judge managed to join forces thanks to the previous cover story. With its conclusion, they formed Neo-Mads, but their reunion was initially one of conflict. This was a continuation of how they were in their youth. Back on Punk Hazard, they were always fighting, but they realized that this was due to always being in Vegapunk's shadow. Surpassing him became the glue that kept them together. But now that he's apparently dead, it seems like they're at odds once again. Dr. Vegapunk had unwavering faith in humanity's capacity for wisdom, which was accompanied by a look at Nami's Weatheria mentors. He had complete faith in science. Emeth continued to fight Saint Warcurry and Jupiter. Vegapunk mentioned that it's been 25 years since Roger's death. It's also been 2 years since Whitebeard's death. A new age has been ushered in by the passing of these old legends. Luffy surrounded the centered punch of Bonnie with a barrage of his own. Saint Saturn has been totally overpowered. He's been riddled with holes. As the Elder's body approached the water, Vegapunk added that today there are those who cannot be oppressed, which was a follow-up to his mention in the previous chapter about those who cannot be stopped. So, what'll happen when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? Dealing this level of damage to Saint Saturn is very impressive. The last time Luffy hit him with Booming Dawn Gatling, the Elder bled and was sent far away. It's pretty clear that his durability isn't as great as Saint Warcurry's. Bonnie was able to stab him with a normal sword that was not infused with any haki. At the time, he claimed that if he didn't want to be stabbed, he would have dodged the attack. But such a big target talking about evasion instead of defense is a bit strange, don't you think? Last chapter, Nushjuro seemed to be in better shape than Saturn is now, and that guy was at the center of a huge explosion. Luffy did not need Bonnie's help against Saturn, but he wanted to involve and encourage her. Truly, every time Luffy uses Gear 5, we see him become stronger and stronger. At the beginning of this arc, he was playing with Rob Lucci. Now he's making pizza and Swiss cheese out of elders. And hopefully Saint Saturn falls into the ocean. The giant pirates celebrated their triumph. Bonnie could not control her tears or emotions. Luffy was laughing and praised her. A faint smile could be seen on her father's face. Just then, Dory and Brogy took notice of something overhead. It was the Sunny. Usopp was freaking out and begging to be saved. They would still need a bit of help landing. Zoro clutched onto his sword as he noticed something. Back to the broadcast, Dr. Vegapunk stated that such unrelenting people were likely to be the closest to the truth. He wondered if this was a matter of coincidence or calculated planning by Roger, a plan that was set into motion by his final moments of life. Jockey put a blanket over her husband Rayleigh, who passed out from drinking. Pirates the world over were overjoyed by the direction of Vegapunk's message. He told them that there was no guarantee that the ultimate treasure would be found by someone Joyboy would have intended. Over on the pirate island Hachinosu, pirates were growing restless due to Blackbeard's absence. On the Red Force, Shanks was being scolded for drinking too much, but he refused to listen. On Empty Bluffs, the members of Cross Guild endlessly praised their chairman now that all doubts had been extinguished. Buggy had no idea what they were on about this time. They praised him for always going above and beyond all expectations. Again, he was totally confused. They claimed to finally understand the gravity of their pursuits and the vastness of their leader's dream. Crocodile and Mihawk frowned deeply. They both know that Buggy is full of it, but even they were speechless. This broadcast must have been especially meaningful to Crocodile on account of his own ancient weapon pursuits. Even the Marines were eager to pursue Roger's treasure. But of course, they already have plenty on their plates as is. Vegapunk made it clear that such a future was practically unavoidable now. the fate of the very world was at stake. Everything would be decided by whoever finds the One Piece. And oh my goodness, what a glorious page this is! This global address and all of its many components have ultimately come down to one thing: the ultimate treasure that began it all. At the very top we have the four Yonko: Shanks, Luffy, Blackbeard, and Buggy. The most obvious prospects whose intentions have been especially focused on in recent times. Below, we have the expanded possibilities of Akainu, Dragon, a mysterious stranger, Imu, Kobe, Aokiji, Garling, and Sabo. This mysterious silhouette belongs to some manner of swordsman. Now obviously he is not the greatest swordsman in the world, but his possession of a sword being shown to us in this way must mean that it is meaningful enough for Oda to have included it. Since the first road poneglyph is in the possession of a mysterious man, perhaps this is the man marked by flames. It could even be the fabled character with an eye patch that is supposed to appear towards the end of the story. We are in the final saga after all. But some even wonder if this might be Shanks' evil twin or something similar, which would certainly clear his name from any rat charges. In fact, when Shanks spoke to the Gorosei about a certain pirate, the scarred half of his face was hidden. And since he was wearing a cloak, we couldn't see if his clothes were any different or if he was missing an arm. The sword this stranger wields seems similar to the one that Shanks has, yet he seems to wield it with his left hand, which Shanks no longer has. We can't forget that clones are very much a thing in One Piece. Regardless, each of these characters represents more than just themselves. Although you could argue that some of these guys seem to have multiple horses in the race. Imu stands for the world government, but we have a celestial dragon and two marines here, all of whom are, by extension, aligned with the world government. But considering the context, I for one am inclined to see them as truly independent from one another. The major faces of the race, whose possible claim of the treasure signify different directions for the world to take. Otherwise, why not have Zoro, Mihawk, or Crocodile up there too? Hell, why not have Law? He may have lost, but so did Kobe, right? So with that in mind, what's up with Sabo and Dragon? Are their visions not as aligned as we would otherwise think? In fact, the grimness of Dragon's expression is very similar to the biggest bastards this lineup has to offer: Blackbeard, Akainu, and Garling. I'm eager to see how things will progress for the Revolutionary Army. This arc has given us plenty of new information on them, but there is definitely more to see. I'm having a blast with this series right now, and I hope you are having a good time too. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching, and have an awesome day. I love you.